She was 21, a nursing student, a former cadet, a daughter, a sister, a runner. On paper, Maura Murray was heading toward a bright future. But on a snowy night in 2004, she vanished from a rural highway in New Hampshire and was never seen again. No witnesses, no footprints, no trail. Just a wrecked car, a cracked windshield, and a void where a life used to be. This isn't just a case, it's a riddle with a beating heart, one that refuses to be solved. Welcome to the Midnight Archive. First episode, The Story of Maura Murray. Maura Murray was a puzzle. Brilliant, driven, and complex. Born in Hanson, Massachusetts, the youngest of five, a track star, a top student, someone you'd expect to thrive under pressure. But by early 2004, pressure was exactly what she was under. She started at West Point like her older sister, but after a minor incident involving credit card fraud, just $250, she transferred to UMass Amherst to study nursing. A fresh start, or so it seemed. But something was unraveling. In the weeks before she vanished, Maura had two reported car accidents, one on campus, one on Route 9 in Hadley. Her father had visited that weekend to help her buy a used car. After dinner, she borrowed his Toyota Corolla and crashed it on her way back to the motel. According to her father, Fred, she was upset, but not unusually so. He told her they'd sort it out with insurance. Life goes on. Everything would be just fine. But 2 days later, everything changed. On February 9th, Maura emailed her professors with an excuse, a death in the family. This wasn't true. She withdrew cash from her account, $280 worth, purchased alcohol, packed up some clothes, toiletries, even her textbooks. Then around 3:30 p.m., she got in her car and started driving north. Her destination, unknown, but her computer showed searches for directions to Burlington, Vermont, and places to rent a condo. She didn't tell anyone where she was going, not her roommate, not her boyfriend, not her sister, not her dad, no one. And then at 7:27 p.m., Maura crashed her car into a snowbank on Route 112 in Haverhill, New Hampshire. A local man, Butch Atwood, a school bus driver, stopped and offered help, but Maura said no. She had already called AAA. But records show she hadn't, and Butch knew full well in that area there was no reception. She couldn't have possibly called AAA. So Atwood drove off. At 7:46 p.m., police arrived. The car was still there, airbags deployed, a cracked windshield, open alcohol containers in the back, but no Maura. No one in the woods, no sign she'd walked away, no blood, no footprints in the snow. Just nothing. From the moment Maura's car hit the snowbank, the clock started ticking. At 7:27 p.m., the crash was witnessed. At 7:46 p.m., the officer arrived. In between, just 19 minutes. And in that time, Maura disappeared. It was a Monday night, cold, dark, no streetlights. The kind of stillness where even your breath feels too loud. Officer Cecil Smith from the Haverhill Police Department responded to the 911 call. When he got there, the car was locked, the windshield cracked, a soda bottle on the floor had a strong smell, likely mixed with alcohol. But there were no footprints, no tire tracks leading the way, no signs of a hitchhiker, just a rag stuffed into the tailpipe, a detail that raised eyebrows later. Was it a makeshift fix, or was it something more? At 7:43, a second 911 call came from a neighbor. He had seen Maura talking to Butch Atwood, the bus driver. He described her as appearing uninjured, but cold and possibly shaken. Atwood's story? He had offered to call for help. She declined. She said AAA was on the way, but there was no cell service in that area because it was nearly non-existent back in 2004. And again, later to be found out, AAA had no record at all of a call. When police searched the area, there was no sign of Maura. Dogs tracked a scent for about 100 feet, but then it stopped, like she'd vanished or been picked up. The first night, there was no immediate panic. She was an adult. No hard evidence of a crime. No one knew, not yet, that this would become one of the most dissected cases in internet history. But the next morning, the phone started ringing. By that afternoon, Maura's family began the trip north. Her father, Fred, arrived within 24 hours, and he didn't waste any time. He immediately began handing out flyers, spoke with reporters, stared down the camera saying, "My daughter didn't run away. Someone took her." But police weren't so sure. There was no ransom demand, no sign of a violent struggle, no known enemies. And so the theory began to form. Maybe Maura didn't want to be found. The vacuum left by Maura's disappearance didn't last long. In the absence of answers came theories. It started quietly, forums, message boards, early adopters digging through public records, dissecting every known move Maura made. But as the years passed, it evolved. Reddit threads with thousands of comments, podcast episodes, true crime specials, documentaries, even Google Earth sleuthing. Why? Because her story was just so open-ended enough to be magnetic. It drew people in. There was no body, no witnesses, no confirmed foul play, just a young woman seemingly burdened by secrets, vanishing in a sliver of time. Some pointed to her behavior in the days before the trip. She had had the accident 2 nights earlier, destroying her father's car, certainly carrying in a level of guilt. The email to professors about a non-existent death in the family. The packed car. There were MapQuest searches. Remember, this is 2004. Was she planning a getaway? Or breaking down quietly in plain sight? No one knew. Others suggested something darker, that she'd met someone along the drive, that the rag in her tailpipe meant someone had sabotaged her car, that a nearby resident, or even Butch Atwood, knew more than they had claimed. But none of these theories had evidence. They were possibilities, but there was simply no evidence. And soon, the obsession turned on itself. Web sleuths started attacking one another. Bloggers accused Maura's family of hiding things, terrible things. People were doxxed, stalked. The case had become a spectacle. Through it all, Maura's family kept searching. Her father returned to that stretch of road year after year. In interviews, he said, "They've turned my daughter into a theory, but she's real and she's still out there." 20 years later, 20 years, theories still multiply. Some are rational, some are wild, but none are conclusive. And still, not one person has come forward with the truth about what happened to Maura Murray. Time has a strange effect on mysteries and really every aspect of our lives. It dulls the edges, but sharpens the questions that often remain. Over the past 20 years, the Maura Murray case has seen moments of renewed hope. In 2011, a volunteer search team scanned nearby woods with cadaver dogs. In 2017, the ground around a house near the crash site was excavated based on a tip from internet sleuths. And in 2021, bones were found in the woods near Loon Mountain. For a moment, and sometimes multiple moments, the Murray family braced themselves. Could this be her? Will there be answers? The remains were sent to a lab. The DNA was analyzed, but the answer came back. Not Maura. As in every other case where hope arose, the answer was the same. It's not Maura. And just like that, the silence returned. No arrests, no major suspects, no confirmed sightings, just the same questions echoing through the trees off Route 112 in rural Haverhill, New Hampshire. Today, the crash site has become a pilgrimage point. True crime fans leave notes, trinkets, crosses. Some call it respectful, others call it morbid. But for Fred Murray, Maura's father, it's a place he keeps returning to year after year because he still believes she's out there somewhere. Maybe she left to escape something. Maybe she was taken. Maybe the truth is far stranger than any of us have even guessed. But one thing is certain, on a cold February night in 2004, a young woman disappeared, and the road that swallowed her never gave her back. When someone disappears, the mind does what it's wired to do, seek answers, and try to solve the puzzle. But in Maura Murray's case, the pieces don't seem to fit. Over the years, 5 dominant theories have taken shape, each one plausible, each one incomplete. The first theory is the one police quietly leaned into early on, that Maura left on her own. She'd lied about a death in the family, emptied her bank account, packed alcohol, makeup, textbooks. She searched for directions to Vermont, New Hampshire, maybe even to a condo in Bartlett, a place her family had vacationed in the past. Maybe she needed space, a reset. Maybe she'd cracked under mounting pressure, 2 car accidents, academic stress, and possible relationship problems. But here's the catch. If she ran away, why hasn't she contacted anyone in 2 decades? There's been no verified sightings, no activity, nothing. Could someone really disappear forever by choice? Sure, it's possible, but is it really plausible? The second theory is more tragic, that Maura, distressed and disoriented, wandered into the woods and died. It was freezing that night. She was possibly intoxicated. There are trails and thick brush near Route 112. Cadaver dogs were brought in. Searches were conducted. But no clothing, no remains, no scent trail ever led beyond a few feet from her vehicle. It's just so hard to vanish in snow without leaving something behind. And if in fact that had happened, you would think after 20 years, something tied to Maura would have been found. Then there's the third theory, that Maura was picked up or abducted by a passing motorist. Her scent ended suddenly, about 100 feet from the crash site. There were no footprints leading away. Could someone have stopped, offered help, had darker intentions? But here's the flaw. It's a remote stretch of road. There's very little traffic that time of night. No one else was seen in the area because there were 2 witnesses. No suspicious vehicle descriptions. No signs of a struggle. Still, a quick abduction into a car leaves no trace, and it happens more often than we think. It's possible, and you can make the argument that the bit of evidence that does exist could lead to this theory being the most likely outcome. The fourth theory gets darker. There's just no other way to say it. That Maura encountered someone local and something happened. Maybe it's a blend of theory number 3 and theory number 4. Suspicion had fallen on a few individuals over the year. A man whose house was near the crash site, another who was rumored to have a connection to law enforcement. In 2017, a ground-penetrating radar scan near one home found signs of a disturbance, leading to a partial excavation. But again, as is so often the case, in this story? Nothing. If a local had harmed her and knew how to hide it, would we ever really find out? It's hard to say. Finally, there's the conspiracy theory. The one whispered in Reddit threads and online documentaries that authorities knew more than they ever admitted. That early mistakes, misfiled reports, mishandled evidence were buried or suppressed. Officer Cecil Smith was said to be driving an SUV that night, yet the official log lists a sedan. The rag in the tailpipe, never fully explained, and some reports claim key information was left out of early logs. Is it a cover-up, or just the chaos of a small-town department overwhelmed by something they didn't expect and had never experienced before? In the end, all 5 theories lead us to the exact same place. A patch of frozen ground in rural New Hampshire, a totaled car, an empty road, a name whispered into silence. Whether Maura ran, was taken, or lost her way, we may never know. But one thing is clear. She didn't just disappear from a map. She disappeared from the story we thought we understood, from the family that loved her and still waits for answers. This is the first episode of the Midnight Archive. Stay tuned for more.